get caught. There's not a lot of police or authorities trying to catch them. And on top of it, the compensation they get for their crime leaves no paper trail for them to get caught.
What's shaking? Welcome to a very special edition of All In. I'm your host, Rick Jordan, coming to you as always, just with the fire and MSPs especially listening today. We've got entrepreneurs in our audience, a lot of people, but MSPs especially, those in the cybersecurity and IT space, listen up because I've got a special guest today, the CEO of Kaseya. We're going to talk about so many things today, which is why you're going to want to share this out with as many people as you know within the MSP space, within the tech space, because we're going to hit some amazing things with SaaS and mergers and acquisitions today. And we don't do promotions, we don't take sponsors or anything. The only way we help more people and impact more people is with your help. So I'm asking for your help today to just share this out because this dude, I'm pumped. He's going to bring it today. Prior to Kaseya, he's led multiple software and internet technology companies, including serving as president of Yodle and for Brand Networks, which was sold to web.com. And get this list goes on and on. Developed a SaaS company where he drove 100% year-over-year growth and successfully sold the business to CA Technologies and also co-founded and served as president of and CEO. Oh my gosh, man, Fred, this is incredible. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rick, man. You're being too nice. I was born in a time where technology took off. I've been so lucky and blessed, and a lot of the things that you said, I get some of the credit for them because maybe my title and stuff. But I got really good markets and had really good people and got very lucky. So sometimes luck is being better than good, but I appreciate having me here and looking forward to the conversation. Same
here, my man. Same here. It's if we could go on that tangent for a little bit, because you're talking about like being in the right place at the right time. Yeah. From what I'm hearing. And I see a lot of that in a lot of, if you call them successful people, right? And at the same time, yeah, they're in the right place at the right time. It's almost like sales. I always see it too. It's like sales. A lot with sales is freaking timing, Yeah. But you kind of have to make sure that you're going to end up there to begin with, right? So there's probably things that you did prior to that, right? In order to even have the momentum building in your life. Where did all this start for you?
So I don't want to get like too touchy-feely and personal, but I'm super blessed. I was lucky enough to have the greatest parents and family like ever. Or I hate saying the greatest, but there were no parents that were better than mine. My father, it's funny, I just did this thing at Kaseya. We have Meet the CEO, and it does like a little personal stuff about the CEOs or things like that. And I never really thought about it before, but my dad is, I believe, the smartest person on earth. I'm still lucky enough that he's here. After he did his tenure with government and CIA and stuff, he got into the technology space in the private sector. And growing up, I always say my dad got rich after I was old. So, I was very happy there that, still had to kind of earn things. But he had a company that invented Easy Pass, the electronic toll.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So he then was a founding member of the company that did NavTech, that did in-vehicle navigation. So I'm not here to talk about like my dad's resume, but the innovation, he's always thinking his whole career, even when he worked in government, right? It was always about how to take technology. And, back when my father was young, computers were brand new, literally brand new. How do you use this new thing called computers, information, data, and technology and change the world? And growing up in New Jersey, shout out to New Jersey. You said you don't take ads. Well, I'm shouting out to New Jersey.
But we don't take their money. We give shout outs all the time, brother, to good people, good places, good things. Yeah, go for it.
Growing up in New Jersey, there's the Garden State Parkway is one of the major throughways there. And driving down to the shore in the summer, there was just miles of backups at these stupid things called tolls, because you had to stop your car and throw your quarter in and drive along. So my old man said, "This is stupid. Why don't we put a little tag on a car window and make it so you can just drive through and they'll debit an account?" Now, we all live with that every day. I remember him thinking that up at the dinner table and talking about it. I'm like, yeah, why don't we do that? I was 10, I don't know, and that tech was like cutting edge back then. We're talking late 80s, early 90s. So it's very fortunate that I had a father who was into making the world better by solving big problems with tech. And there was never, you can't do it. It was, let's try to figure out how to do it. And then of course, my mom is one of the greatest human beings you'll ever meet. If I got a 0 on a test, she would find the positive in it and try to make a way of making it better. And, when you're in technology and you're an entrepreneur, you fail a lot. And when you have a support system that picks you back up when you fail, I'm so blessed. So yeah, being in the right place at the right time totally helps. Having, the parents and the family that I had grown up is just super blessed for it and super lucky.
That's huge, man. I love how you say, having that support system to pick you back up too, because there's been a lot of scenarios. I mean, my dad was amazing as well, and I've talked about him a lot on the show. He died when I was 16, and he was always there. He set the stage for me, though. As far as good work ethic, and was never the participation trophy dad. I don't think I've mentioned that about him before.
100%.
That wasn't him,
Results matter.
Exactly. But he was also truth, because he's like, yeah, you messed up. Now, what are you going to do about it? And I'm going to be there to help you get through your screw ups too. As long as he was alive, he was going to do that. And he did that up until I was 16 years old. But that set a stage for everything in my life to do exactly what you're doing, man. That's awesome to hear the background of your family. That's foundational, brother. Yeah.
100%.
I love it. So I'm taking a look. There's a lot of things that you've done. There was one thing that I noticed with pretty much every company that you've been a part of so far is that, you've been part of the SaaS industry for a long time, and pretty much all the companies you've been a part of have been acquired, which is phenomenal, because that's SaaS, right? Yep. And we're seeing a lot of that in the MSP space right now too. Yeah. It's freaking hot. I mean, it just lit up on fire. How do you see the comparisons between the SaaS industry and the MSP space when it comes to M&A?
Yeah, exactly the same, with a 15-year delta. And I'll tell you why. So the way software started, or the second phase of software, when open system software, client server software started, the Oracles, the SAPs, the Identify software, one of the companies that my partner Yoki Slonim and I did that sold to BMC. It was right before SaaS. So SaaS doesn't mean that it's cloud-based. Really what SaaS is a business model. Mm-hmm. Software can be hosted or it can be on-premise, but it's subscription-based. So that fundamental software used to be sold on a license and maintenance basis, right? We've all, you sell $100,000 worth of software, you charge 20% a year maintenance. And the problem with that business model is you're eating what you kill. You have a nice recurring revenue stream, but the majority of your revenue is not recurring. It's akin to project revenue for an MSP. It's nice, but it's not recurring.
Bingo, yeah.
So Salesforce was at the forefront of this. And actually, when BMC bought Identify, BMC had a CEO named Bob Beecham. And Steve Salter was the CFO then, this is going back a while, started thinking about, well, what if we rented our software? Then Computer Associates was renting their software. And that became software as a service before cloud delivery. And cloud delivery just changed the delivery vehicle for software. So what that did was it allowed the revenue streams of software companies to be predictable. And when your revenue is predictable, you can then have confidence in your investment strategy, which means you can then put debt on the asset.
Bingo.
So once you have a recurring revenue stream with long-term contracts, so you have low churn, and you can put debt on it, the private equity companies just jumped on it, because what a great way to juice your return. I mean, and that's why we've seen the amount of private equity dollars in software and internet companies. You want to faint? There's almost $1 trillion, that's a T, dollars raised in the last 6 years by people like Insight Partners and TPG and others, Thoma Bravo, Vista, the list goes on and on. for that purpose. And that's why you're seeing just such a huge influx of technology companies, because the business model is so lucrative for everyone because of recurring revenue. It's not that the software is more expensive, it's predictable. So what's happening with MSPs is where software and the community of investors around it was about a decade ago. Now we're seeing investors looking at MSPs. And when I say MSPs, I'm talking about the people that focus on small and mid-sized businesses.
Bingo. Sub $100 million in revenue clients. Yeah. Our MSP,
not IBM and Tata and stuff.
Yeah.
And so what they're finding is the TAM, the addressable market is, it's gargantuan. It's arguably the largest TAM in the world. And the spend on technology by SMBs is growing at 7 times the economy since 2012. It's growing 7 times GDP growth. That's insane. And now MSPs, the mature MSPs, I hate saying the smarter ones, but the little more mature ones, that doesn't mean bigger, it means more mature. They're now entering into longer term contracts with their customers. So they're not seeing revenue churn. So the institutional investors are looking at an MSP, and you know this from Go Public, they're looking at an MSP and they're seeing this. Recurring revenue, low churn, huge TAM, which means you can grow rapidly. And they're seeing, decent margins. That looks like a software company. So they're throwing tons of money in it. Now, the difference between the software and SaaS boom and the MSP boom that we're starting to see, I think we will see in the next 10 years, is the way MSPs grow. It's a little harder to grow organically as an MSP.
You got it. Bingo.
So they grow by M&A. They'll buy lots of MSPs and they'll grow inorganically. You guys thrive. Lots of people do that. So that makes the private equity buyer even more interested because they can deploy more capital at a high return. So the long story short is I think that what we have seen the last decade with SaaS companies, the same thing is starting to happen with MSPs. Valuations are a little lower because the gross margins are just a little lower, but it's a fantastic business for private institutions and public investors to invest in because of the predictability. So sorry for the soliloquy, but it's super cool to say it because I feel like I lived it for the last 14 years.
You have, yeah, for sure. That's why I love your perspective too in the comparison, because I share that because it's like we're at the birthplace right now, almost of like a gold rush in the MSP space. And at the Connect IT event, talking about M&A, when my talk was around either scale or evolve, and how scaling it's a tedious process. It takes a long time. Exactly what you're talking about, growing organically. It's like pushing a freaking rock uphill. You get to a point to where you mature, like Reach Out is my MSP. And then now we're jumping into M&A because and we're filed now with the SEC. We're going public, and that's our capitalization process in order to acquire 50 MSPs over the next 2 years and create the first nationwide brand, but that's how we're going to grow fast and actually do something meaningful for the world.
Yeah. And by the way, congratulations on that.
Thank you, brother.
IPOs are, for those who haven't done it, it's exciting. It's a F ton of work, and it's filled with government regulation and just all the things you don't want to deal with. But congrats, that's super cool. Super cool for the industry. I think when we think about the M&A forum that we just had, at Connect, and all the folks that were there, one of the things that we're finding at Kaseya, and I'm going to say this in a way not to piss people off, but it's the reality. The small, as I said earlier, the small to mid-sized business market is gigantic and it's only growing, which means there's more than enough customers for everyone to make a lot of money.
You got it. Sure is.
However, we're finding that the winners or the better run MSPs everyone's doing well. Even the MSP that's not maybe run exceptionally well, they're doing fine. But the MSPs that are crushing it like yourselves are the professionally run, well-run MSPs that have things like a professional go-to-market team. They understand how to use inorganic growth, which is the fancy way of saying M&A. Yeah. They understand how to make technicians efficient, how to recruit and retain in this tight labor economy. And I think what we're going to see in the next phase of MSPs, usually, not always, the well-run MSPs are run by professional business people, which means they're larger by definition because they have institutional capital and stuff. So I think that in order for the MSPs that want to remain small and independent, and there'll be a ton of them because the market's so big, they need to start thinking about how to make their company, which happens to be an MSP, professionally run. Think about sales and marketing as a professional. Think about the finance function as a professional. And I think a lot of folks, a lot of MSPs, they're running an 8, 10, 12, 20, 30 person company. They may not want to be a business owner. They want to still be an MSP, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to see more and more M&A. And it's just super, super exciting.
Yeah, no joke, man. As you're talking about this too, I'm starting to think about this because the capitalization structures, and you're saying running by professional people. One of the things that has made everything possible for what I'm doing is literally by being the face, by putting a face to the brand. And I was at an event just about a month ago, and the speaker made a comment. It was actually Tony Robbins made the comment that a faceless,
Love Tony Robbins.
I know, he's phenomenal. He said a faceless brand takes way more capital and way more time to build. And, I think to when, even with the breaches that took place, just a couple months ago with Kaseya, I was watching you and your media appearances. I was doing a couple of Bloomberg appearances and everything else, and seeing you jump into the media, global media at that point, so that people felt safe and secure was incredible. Did you ever think that, like, when I grow up, I want to be on CNN, I want to be on Bloomberg and, representing the company that I'm working for?
Well, and if I ever did, it wasn't under those circumstances. Right?
Sure, no doubt.
I grew up in New Jersey, as I said earlier, relatively humble, never wanted for anything. But, like I said, my father worked for the government for most of my young life, and we were just a great family. And I wanted to be a baseball player when I was a kid, then a football player, then I wanted to go in the military, and all the things that most people do when they're, when they're growing up. I took a liking to innovation, partially because of my dad. Yeah. And then, I was lucky that when the time that I was born was like the client server and the internet booms, if you will. And that just made things that were never physically possible now possible. And what's been my kind of calling is, how is technology and innovation that was once the domain of large enterprises and large governments, now the domain of a dental office and the MSPs that serve them. Like, that's pretty cool. So it's being the face of Kaseya. Like, man, I get really nervous speaking in front of groups. I just spoke in front of 3,000 people at our Connect conference. I was super, I don't like that. I don't like going to networking events around people. I get nervous. I've had the same friends since I was in kindergarten. I just get nervous with it, but it's part of the job. And to your point, and to Tony Robbins' point, can't believe we're talking about Tony Robbins on here, guys. But you're right. Leadership is, you gotta be in front. And when we had our security incident, it's something we take really seriously. Like, if I smiled or made a grin about it, like, it's just out of embarrassment. That's a serious thing. And it required the world or our constituents, our customers, I don't care about the world, I could give a shit about that, but our customers to really know that we take it seriously. Yeah. And our customers are small business owners or mid-sized business owners, or in your case, large business owners. But, in the scheme of the world, Apple's a large company. Your company, you guys are getting ready to go public, but we're all small businesses.
For sure.
Yeah, we're 400 million in revenue. We're a small business. And we impacted a lot of people's lives. It was important to do that. But to directly answer your question, no way in hell. When my friends I grew up with, that I do jujitsu with saw me on TV. They sent me they made memes of me. They made fun of me nuts. I mean, are you kidding me?
You made it, Fred. You've got memes of you now. That's good.
So they put me like in prison garb, like, oh, you're going to jail. But no, it's
my team likes to do that internally. When I say something really stupid on the show, they'll do the same thing. It's awesome. That's when you know you've made it, right? You got memes.
It's funny. Yeah.
Dude, I appreciate it. I mean, I'll just say this on the record as I did before. I appreciated Kaseya's response to the security incident. To me, it was incredible. And even with the global media appearances I was doing on Bloomberg and Cheddar and Newsmax and Fox, it was my focus was more so on the MSPs, because it was interesting to me. And this is part of the state of the industry, like as I talked about last week too, is the brutal truth of the MSP space, and why I see there's so much M&A going on is because there is a genuine lack of competency around cybersecurity. Oh, yeah. And it's because it's overwhelming, man. And I've got background from education from the CIA and the NSA, as a civilian for a contract work. And I see things a little differently than most. But, I showed my stack from 3 years ago when I was a board when we, outlined this. And everyone talks about layers in the MSP stack. There's like 27 of them. There's something like that we're up to right now. Yeah. It's insane. And I see MSPs out there with 3 or 4 items as part of their quote unquote cyber offering. Yeah. And it's getting difficult to compete because the rules of today are going to be freaking obsolete tomorrow for the small shops. It is.
And I think you bring up so many interesting points. One, so I learned a lot during the cyber incident. I spent so much time with domestic agencies. Yeah. I had some exposure to some of the international or the other 3-letter agencies, which is legal the way that it was done. They're not allowed to operate in the States, but it was. I learned so much. First off, I got to give, if any of these guys and gals are listening, Homeland, CISA,
they're
FBI,
incredible, aren't they?
I mean, listen. Yeah. Say what you will if you like the government, if you don't like government, like wherever you stand. Our tax dollars for these areas very well spent. It was like some of the things they were doing. So we're a $400 million software business. We have about a $200 million security business. We have some very well-paid, very smart engineers, as we can imagine, right?
Yeah.
There's like James Bond stuff. Yeah. Some of the things, this amazing capabilities, and they actually they cared. It wasn't like I was expecting a lot of empty suits, to be honest, and I was floored. But if you think about the situation of the world, Rick, and this forced me to do a little like thinking. I'm a product of the New Jersey public school system, so my intellectual horsepower may not be so great. But here's a couple of interesting facts. And if you think about it, so as a Western society, so this is EU, North America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, we spend about 1,000 times the amount of financial resources combating illicit drugs than we do cybercrime. Yeah. 1,000 times. The economic output of cybercrime in all its forms, not the result of it, the output from it, the gains from those who participate directly and indirectly, is about the same as the economic output of the illicit drug trade. So what that tells us is, and I think it's not with any malintent, but the governments in the Western world don't fully understand cybercrime because they're allocating 1/1000th of the resource to protect us from it. Yeah. So what that means is it's up to us to protect ourselves and for MSPs to protect themselves and their customers. So it's completely unregulated. 2 other things on top of that. By the way, I'm not saying regulation's good. It's a fact. 2 other things on top of it. One is if you or I were to walk into a bank with a note, pass the note and say, give me $25,000 or I'll shoot you with the gun in my pocket. Or if we, through various means of cybercrime, stole $10 million from the same bank, our prison sentence is about 15 times longer for the armed robbery.
Yeah. Second
thing, 100% of ransomware and about 80 2%, I believe, is household of all cyber crime is conducted with anonymous currencies. And the number one way criminals in all aspects of professional organized crime are, captured by law enforcement is through the financial crimes. Al Capone went to jail for tax evasion.
Yeah, you're
he
right.
Go to jail because some dude had a gun to his head. It is virtually impossible to follow the money with anonymous currencies. So we've created a state where criminals have a very light prison sentence if they get caught. There's not a lot of police or authorities trying to catch them. And on top of it, the compensation they get for their crime leaves no paper trail for them to get caught. This is going to get much, much, much worse.
It's mind-blowing. Yeah.
Yeah. And to your point, without having any bad intention, because like you, I got to talk to a number of government people in the EU and the States in the last 3 months, and they're just learning it. They're learning what we probably knew 7-8 years ago. So we are on our own to protect ourselves and our customers. And I think all of us, software vendors like Kaseya, yes, Microsoft got hit 15 times, I think 16 times in the last year. This is Microsoft.
Yeah.
It's my favorite company in the world.
You got it.
It's something that is fundamentally going to alter Western civilization if it's not addressed properly.
For sure.
Right now, people like you and other MSPs are the front lines in protecting it. It's an interesting fight.
For sure. I just saw an article just this morning that Microsoft, out of their study over the past 6 months, deemed Russia as the largest threat for nation state-backed cyber attacks. And you start to see this because we've seen executive orders by the administration, this administration and the previous administration. Yep. So this isn't a partisan issue. That's which is what you're talking about, And even when I was in a room at the White House last year in the Secretary of War room pushing an AI bill across the table, it was really cool because you're talking about DHS. That's who was in the room with me. DHS, CISA. And I'm at the foot of a big oak table with the Deputy Director of Defense at the head of the table talking. I'm like, I'm just a guy, right? And as I'm talking to everybody in this room, it blew my mind because just like you experienced, it was so just incredibly lifting to me to see that they really cared about the people and that they were trying to protect. And then you see the Senate reports of the Special Inquiry Committee where they rated the different government agencies as far as their cyber readiness. And I think the DHS got a B+ and the State Department got a D- or something like. You see the discrepancy, right? But you also see that they're really on the forefront, and it comes down to tax dollars. And then the Air Force lieutenant that just resigned a little bit ago, because he said that he compared us to China and said that we're at a kindergarten level from a government perspective for cybersecurity readiness and preparedness compared to China. So all of these things, man, just back up your points that it's now up to the MSPs. Yeah, and
another point to all of that is you and I, we need a license if we want to drive a car. We need a license if we want to get married, a marriage license, right?
Yeah.
We don't need a license to control all of the systems and data and information and security for all of our customers. I'm not saying that we want to regulate stuff. I'm just pointing out it's not even on the government's mind yet. It's getting there. And this stuff, the anonymous currencies and the combined with the technology innovation that cyber criminals have, I don't want to sound like an alarmist or some kind of crazy person. This is the only threat to our way of life, because there's very, very bad things that can happen. Imagine if you can't go online and do anything. That's not just going to your Amazon account and buying your weekly supply of shampoo. That's the supply chain stops. Supermarkets don't get stocked in 3 days. Bad things can happen. So it's up to us. And that's one of the things, to your original point about never think I'd get in front of camera on like Fox News or CNBC. Yeah. Like, no, I didn't. And I hate doing it. Like even things like this, I love the opportunity. I get really nervous. I hate hearing my own voice and seeing my own face. but it's part of the job, and we're doing good in the world. We're not just making money, we're doing good in the world, and that's pretty cool.
You got it, brother. Well, you're doing good in conversation today. I'm enjoying our conversation so far. This is why M&A is so big right now too, is because it's difficult. Now, when I say for smaller MSPs, I'm really talking, which is the majority of MSPs that are sub 5 million in revenue, even sub $1 million in revenue. Yeah. They haven't cracked that $1 million glass ceiling yet. And I remember it took me, because I started as an engineer, man, when I was laid off working for Best Buy, right? Yeah. I was the first freaking Geek Squad agent in Chicago after the acquisition of Geek Squad. And Geek Squad.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, dude, it's. I still got my badge, right? I still got my badge from my.
By the way, what an opportunity missed by Best Buy with Geek Squad. They could have turned that into a national MSP.
Oh my God! Yes, exactly. So I've had thoughts about that too, about walking back in, to Best Buy headquarters in Minneapolis at some point and being like, yeah, I'm a public company now, and I was putting together, and I trained all of Canada for the rollout at a lot of the United States. Let me tell you where you went wrong, okay? Yeah. But try to unify that. And that's what I'm trying to do even with the public offering, is try to help unify the fragmented space. But those smaller MSPs, man, the only way I see that they're going to compete is really by almost like investing their company into a larger MSP in order to even still be relevant, and then they actually get some good things. Like, I love it being a public company because there's stock that's involved in all these deals too. Yeah. So the stock launch, wherever it's at, $1 a share or whatever, imagine that being $10 a share, $20 a share, $100 a share in the next 10 years. And now it's liquid. Yeah. Exactly. It's incredible. And now you're part of this amazing thing to actually begin to compete against all the threats that are out there. I'm not even talking about other MSPs, but now you have a freaking fighting chance.
Yeah. Yeah. The IPOs are, it's interesting. So two things that you brought up that made me just think a little bit. One is, you're right. Our data has about, if we're talking globally, Western or EU, Australia, New Zealand, US, Canada, Mexico, and Argentina. And South Africa. That's kind of how we kind of look at it. We're looking at about 140,000 MSPs, and most of them are sub $1 million. That's why there's a lot of them are lifestyle businesses. A wife, a husband, two friends. They have $700,000 recurring business. They have 14 customers, and they're not interested in growing globally and doing different things. Yeah. And it gets harder every day for them to deliver the quality that they need to. And some do and some don't. But being public, I think you're right in the market. It gives a firm like yours, or if Kaseya does it, the publicly traded equity is a nice currency. Yeah. It's great because it's liquid. If you give someone 5,000 shares in your private company, it's worth a lot of money. They can't turn it into cash tomorrow and go pay for their kids' college tuition. Yeah, right on. Public currency, you can. So it allows you to share in the upside with instant liquidity. I think we're going to see more and more of that. I think you're going to see, like Datto went public. Kaseya's most likely going to go public.
You're hitting on one of my questions for you. What were those plans? Oh, yeah. Datto, by the way, took my ticker. They took MSP, but
that was smart. I got to tell you,
that was really smart.
A really nice ticker. They're one of my competitors, so I love for them when they don't do well. But very, very good ticker. It's a good company. Tim's doing a good job. But so it does a lot of good things for us. Yeah, we'll be a public company. We're very acquisitive. Our strategy is a little different than Datto and some of the others. We have a more platform view. We believe that the challenges that you indicated MSPs have, we want to stay ahead of it. We're buying 2 to 3 companies per year. We're integrating those technologies in our stack because there's so much innovative stuff that comes out to deal with the threats that are emerging every day. So, but either way, hopefully we're right, but we'll see.
It's really cool watching your strategy, and as you add these different components and just puzzle pieces to what you're doing. And I'm sharing the same. As I'm looking for MSPs to acquire, I'm trying to find ones with specific competencies too. Yeah. If it's Apple, or if it's even a SaaS company, or if it's someone that actually has a couple of CISOs on staff, and that's an area that they specialized in. Yeah, exactly. To have all these competencies. Because just like when Kaseya started, I remember Kaseya a decade ago, right? It was just the RMM. And that was it. It's cool. It worked really, really well, phenomenal. But as you added these components to it, you're able to do so much more to where it's a one-stop shop. And MSPs now actually have an opportunity to be able to have this platform-based solution to where they can just plug in and offer things they never could before.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, our view of the world, and keeping this away from being a Kaseya commercial. So our view of the world is analogous to how Microsoft viewed the world in the 90s with Microsoft Office. For those of us that are a little older, we remember when Excel wasn't the number one spreadsheet, Lotus was. WordPerfect was the dominant word processor, and Harvard Graphics was the dominant presentation layer, not PowerPoint. What Microsoft did that was the two things really interesting. One, they recognized that a white collar worker wants to have access to to this much functionality in Excel, in PowerPoint. You don't have an Excel or a WordPerfect guru in the office. So what they did was they bundled all of the different independent tools and they integrated them. So now you get Office. So you can right click on PowerPoint and it opens Excel, and you can do, and it became available to everyone because what the user wanted was everything integrated. Our platform called IT Complete, we have the same view. The MSP technician, very, very few MSP technicians do only one thing. Most of them, they might be backing up a VM. They might go and patch a machine, and they do different things. They'll have areas of expertise, but most are multifunctional. Our platform is purpose-built for them. We like to think it includes all of the functionality that the MSP technicians need to deliver all of the managed services to their customers. And it's all done in an integrated way. And because we provide all of the different technologies, we don't need to make all of our money in any one. We charge 1/3 less than what our competitors do for the same functionality. So the MSP can make more money because you as an MSP, you have two costs. I mean, you have multiple, two primary costs: labor and the cost of the kit to deliver your service.
Yeah, bingo.
And if we can make your labor 20% more effective by integrating things, and we charge you 30% less for your kit, we think that we can make an MSP grow their profit by about 50% without adding a single new customer. And that's our job. That's what we try to do.
I love it, man. As I'm looking at this too, it's like, hey, that's what I'm doing with the roll up too, because we're going to be able to charge still a premium, but providing the entire solution set, all the competencies in cybersecurity to clients, SMBs across the United States and North America for a little bit less than some of the premium MSPs that are the smaller ones. Yeah. And it's amazing too, because you talked about Datto a little bit too, and how they went public. Kaseya is planning on going public. Reach Out, my MSP, is going public. What are the benefits of that? Because I remember Datto got a bunch of backlash from the MSP community when they did, especially over the ticker that they chose. Yeah, I don't know.
I love it personally.
I do too. I think it was freaking brilliant, And I was like, son of a bitch. I was more in admiration than I was pissed off at them.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. So look, it's a great question. I mean, I think being public, it sucks for you and I doing that. It's a pain in the butt. Yeah. Right. So for everyone listening, it stinks. You have liability issues personally you got to worry about now. In this climate, political climate, like if you're a business person, you're kind of like deemed as bad by certain parts of society, which blows me away, but you're demonized if you try to build a business. But there's so many good things that come with being a public company. One of them is, we said it earlier, you have the currency to invest in your business. And if I'll say this, I think Datto going public, the perception that they'll become corporate, they won't care about me anymore. That's not if you're public or private. Bingo. That's who's running the show.
You got it. Yeah.
Now, if you have leaders in the company that I'm trying not to curse, that care, again, that's the New Jersey upbringing, that care about customers, and they really they care, then being public gives those people who care more resource to do what they want to do. And if the people running the show are empty suits, or quite frankly, if technology companies aren't run by business people, they're run by finance people, like sometimes that might change. Yeah, you're going to lose a lot, not because finance people are bad, but they're finance people. And it's more important to look at the leadership and what they're in how they're building and staffing their teams. My opinion anyway.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, you get whatever the strategy is and whomever the people are. When you're public, you get more wood behind the arrow to double down. And if the people in the strategy are good, it'll be a good thing for the customers. If they're not, it'll be progressively worse because they have more financial resources to invest in stuff that's not going to help the customers.
For sure. I see data going public, Kaseya's, likely plans of going public, reach out going public is very, very good things for MSPs.
Oh yeah.
It's
it's the fact that you guys are going to go is phenomenal. If I'm an MSP, if I'm one of the masses of MSPs, I'm not someone like you, you're an exceptional MSP, right? But if you're, a typical 15-person MSP, all of this publicity is good because all it does is incent more and more institutional money to look at this space, which means there will be more small, medium, and large private equity firms buying small, medium, and large MSPs. There'll be more focus on technology. The customers will become more aware of the values of technology, and the overall ecosystem grows. Some people, look, we're all technologists. I'm a software engineer I'm a nerd. I don't care. I'm a nerd. If he doesn't like it.
Same, brother. Geek Squad, porn scrubber.
Right, yeah, literally. Right? Whatever. We'll have a conversation another time about it. But we're all nerds. And whether we are IT nerds or maybe we are, let's say we're chefs and we're very into making the best food, or maybe we are tailors and we're into making the best like men's suits or women's clothing. Fundamentally, in MSPs of business, it's not about the technology. Now, you need great technology to be an MSP. What I find is the MSP world, because it's made up of so many purists, technologists, anything commercial is viewed in a negative light by my fellow geeks. I got past that phase. Not saying it's good or bad. I'm not judging it. Yeah. I find the commercial aspect as intellectually stimulating as the technology. I like it both, and what it is. But it's if you're a 3-person MSP and you love doing everything yourself, it sucks that it gets harder and harder to be a purist. It's unfortunate. It's like you're an artisan. You're an artist. You want to do the best job you can. So I think some of that is there, and those tend to be the loudest voices on Reddit or on all these forums. For sure. Yeah. Because they're the ones that have the time to do it.
Yeah.
And there's, again, nothing wrong with it. It's just, I think we see that in every industry as the industries evolve.
No doubt. I'm always going to try to stay anti-establishment, man. That's why I don't wear a suit. I wear black T-shirts everywhere I go and jeans, but that's how it is.
Yeah. And the fact that you said that, this would be just unsolicited advice, is I think why, as a public company, back to your question about data, I think you're going to rock as a public company because you're aware of that. You're like, it's not just about the shirt you wear. It's how you view things. And when we spoke offline, you genuinely care about your customers and the business. Yes, you care about making money. Yes, but you are a technologist and you are a customer service professional, a customer solution professional. And I think so whoever's listening, once you guys are public, that's more wood behind your arrow to do what you want, which is the right thing by your customer.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate those kind words. What are you excited for the most about the future of our space, of the MSP industry, over the next decade?
Yeah, so I'll answer it about the industry. I love my company. I love what we're doing. Yeah. I love our people. So that's super cool. But for the industry, I think there's 2 big trends. And I talked about this at the keynote at Connect. So if I didn't say this part. I have nieces and nephews. I have 6 of them, and they're wonderful. I had a conversation with one of them, thinking about what they want to do with their life. And I'm like, I'll buy you an MSP. Like, MSP, what does that mean? I explained it. And, she's young. She's not done with her education yet. But I said to her that you want to take as many IT and software engineering courses as you can, because technology is the future. And here's the biggest, I think, 10 to 15 year window, and that's for the proliferation of spending by SMBs on tech. And I think there's 2 big things that we're going to see in our industry that just alter everything as much as it has in the last decade. The first is we're seeing mid-sized businesses. I'm defining that as companies with 1 to 15 IT people. I think by the end of this decade, there will be 1/3 as many internal IT shops of that size. People like you are going to be doing all their IT. That triples the amount of spend MSPs can get. And this isn't a dental office spending $1,500 a month, being a pain in the butt every time something goes wrong. This is a $30,000 a month community bank where you're augmenting their IT group or maybe even replacing it. So you have a long-term contract, sophisticated customer, professional relationship. It's a much better type of customer. So MSPs have to learn how to sell to those kinds of companies. Totally. I mean, you guys do it, but again, you're an exceptional.
It's a different conversation for sure. Yeah. So
that's going to alter and massively open up the market, and it's going to make the more sophisticated MSPs more successful. The second, and this is another interesting, just cataclysmic in a positive way, evolution. So if you think about the typical small business under 100 employees that make up about 90% of customers of MSPs and about 50% of the revenue of MSPs, a dental practice, a big one. They got 20 employees. They spend, $8,000 a month with their MSP, and it's a nice little customer. If you think about what that dental practice spends money on, there's about 7 business service providers that they spend money on. Their lawyer, their accountant, their payments organization, their IT and security person, their digital marketing person, their HR PMO, maybe their managed print if they're in certain businesses.
Yeah.
Those are all now technology-enabled services. I think by the end of the decade, the number of vendors that a typical small to mid-sized business leverages for business services will go from 7 to 3. I think the finance person will remain their finance person, or the accounting person, the law firm, their law firm. All other business services that touch technology in any way will be done by the MSP. MSPs, they'll be doing all their payments. They'll be doing all their VoIP, all their unified communications, all the IT and security like they do now. Remember, it was only 6 years ago MSPs also did security.
Yeah, right.
Beyond antivirus. You know what I mean?
You got it.
Those two trends will, depending how you look at it, and again, I went through all the numbers at Connect a little while ago. It'll probably, triple the TAM available for MSPs. That's exciting. And Kaseya plug, our strategy is to make sure our platform has technologies so MSPs like yourselves can go and get every dime of managed service technology-enabled spend from our platform. And so I'm excited for Kaseya for that. And I'm excited for the industry. I think it's super cool. I think we're in the 3rd inning. And as my good friend, he's not really my friend, but the famous surfer Kelly Slater said, when asked why he wins the national surfing title every year, he said, well, the first thing I do is I pick the right wave. And we're on the right wave. On the right wave.
I love it, man. There's something key out of what you said on how the TAM, the total addressable market's going to triple. And at the same time, I was on the phone with Gary Pica just a couple weeks ago too. He was my very first mentor in the MSP space. And we caught
Gary's
up.
Awesome.
He's amazing. Yeah. We caught up on the phone just a couple weeks ago and we were going back and forth and both of us are like, we think there's going to be, so you're saying that the TAM's going to triple. So the amount of revenue dollars for MSPs to grab is going to triple, yet there's going to be 1/3 less MSPs around.
Yeah, so Gary works at Kaseya and he and I talk a lot. I don't know. I have a little bit of we'll see what happens. I don't know if I think there'll be the same number of MSPs. Here's what I mean by that. There's a ton of M&A, right? You guys are going to buy hundreds and there's tons of M&A, but there's also a lot of niche IT service providers. So I'm using not MSP coming up. For example, there's an outfit out of Long Island. All they do is compliance management for doctors' offices on the island.
Yeah, right on.
And that's all they do. The guy's got about $1.5 million business. He has 2 employees, makes a lot of money. Of course, he uses our compliance product for it. There's a plug. But regardless of that, sorry, I couldn't help it. But I think you're going to see, security, compliance, managed print. There's a lot of niche services. So I think that the market's going to triple. There'll be a ton of M&A. I think we'll have roughly the same number of orgs, but that means the orgs are going to be 3x bigger.
Yeah.
So, and who knows? I mean, Gary and I talk about this a lot, and I usually lose in my arguments to Gary, so he's probably right.
He has a way of speaking, doesn't he? Yeah.
He's such a smart
debating. I know.
I've learned so much from that dude. Now he's got a huge ego, so now his ego is going to be twice as big me saying that. But I love him, man.
He's a mentor that's turned into a friend. So it's.
I didn't know you and Gary worked together. That's super cool.
Yeah, it's the year. 2013, right at the beginning of when he was really starting True Methods and everything. I was one of his first, however many clients that was on there, and I credit a lot of my success to him. And I like to josh him a little bit too and be like, dude, I kind of improved on some of your methods a little too, man.
One of the jokes that we have, and this is an MSP, conversation, so most of your listeners will probably know it. So Jim Lippy, Jim Lippy from SaaS Alerts. He used to work at Kaseya for a long time. Great guy. And so we always tease Gary that, Jim Lippy's becoming a bigger deal in the industry than he is. So it's a little inside. And I also had to plug my good friend, Jim Lippy. Anyone who's listening, he's got a great company, SaaS Alerts. Check it out.
I love it, man. So Fred, as we round this out, man, what's next for you? Because you've taken Kaseya from 85 million to 400 million in revenue. Yeah. You've been a part of so many here. You've got a public offering you're teasing now as a possibility with Kaseya. What's next for you personally, man? Where do you see yourself going? Yeah,
I have I hang out with my friends from childhood, my mom, my dad, my brothers, my nieces and nephews, my dog. I do jujitsu. I suck at it, but I try to do it all the time. I box. I suck at that too, but I like getting knocked out, and I work. I love what we do. I really enjoy it. As you mentioned earlier, most of my companies that I've started before were single product companies. They got to 50, 80, 100 million. We sold them. We did well and all that kind of stuff. This is different. This is a platform. And I think I'm going to, unless I get fired, which, can happen. They can get sick of me and who knows what happens. I think Kaseya is 3-4 billion in revenue by the end of the decade. I think we are the number one SMB facing solution provider by the end of the decade worldwide, including Intuit.
Yeah.
I think we have a really unique opportunity and I love it. I love our company. Dude, we're based in Miami. You take a look, right? It's freaking awesome. Right? Yeah. Miami. So I plan on being here. I love our customers. It's cool to deal with owners and executives of companies talking about their business, not selling some application release automation product to some dude at Citibank who could care less. It makes a big difference. I love it. I'll be here.
I love it, man. And if something happens, there's always a home for you with me too. I'm just going to throw that out there. Yeah, no problem.
As long as I don't have to I feel so embarrassed on these things. As long as I can stay behind the scene.
It's all good. I love cameras. I'll be the one that goes out all the global beats. It's cool. Yeah.
Deal, awesome, baby.
Brother. Fred, thanks so much for being on, man. It was an amazing conversation. Just a lot of insight you bring.
Well, thank you. And again, congrats on the filing. That is a huge deal for you personally, your company, obviously the MSP industry. But man, I'm pumped. That's good to hear.
Thanks,
congratulations.
Brother.
Cool. All right, guys, take care.